I was walking with my wife and daughter to the station, and my daughter says, "Let's race." I'm like, "All right." And I would never have done that. I would have been, oh, my leg's sore, my this is sore, that's I've got this problem, that problem, And I was like, okay, we're racing each other, and it's like, you actually feel good expending the energy, and I don't ever remember exercise being like that in the past.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. I'm DC. Today, we are talking to Dave Mack from No Carb Life. Now, Dave has a remarkable story of healing after suffering a stroke due to aneurysm in his early teenage years, which left him with a limp, a weaker right side to his left. Later on, he became addicted to smoking, alcohol, and other things. But since going carnivore, he has lost weight, improved symptoms from his stroke, but also gotten rid of the addictions. He's able to enjoy life and run around with his young girl and enjoy his family again. So I'll let you hear it in his own story, in his own words, and I'll see you soon. So Dave, you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure. So I'm 49-year-old Australian guy, born in Scotland but raised in Australia. Currently live in Japan, and I've been carnivore for about 20 months now. And part of the reason I'm carnivore is just accidental. I had a problem with alcohol and sugar that I needed to address, and I chose to address that through low carb dieting, and that low carb diet kind of morphed very quickly into carnivore. And so 20 months later, I find myself here kind of eating only eggs and ground beef, and it's been a bit of a journey.
Yeah. So when did you actually find the carnivore diet?
So June 2022. The abridged version is I went to the doctor. The doctor said, "You're an alcoholic. You got pre-diabetes. We need to do something about this. Here's some drugs I want to give you." I didn't want to take those drugs, and so I wanted to find an alternative, and I knew I needed to get some self-control back to get rid of the alcohol and the sugar. And so I knew that keto or low carb had helped me in the past with self-control. So I decided I'll give it a try. And, kind of a week or 2 weeks into doing low carb or keto, I was the vegetables I was eating were not agreeing with me gastrically. And so I had done a bit of research, realized that the particular vegetables I was eating were the worst I could be eating. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to get these out of my diet. And I've been carnivore ever since. So that would be like mid-June 2022.
Yeah. So who convinced you, or did you find a doctor that, like on YouTube or anything like that, who were you listening to that actually convinced you to get rid of the vegetables?
That was, I'm pretty sure that was Ken Berry. It's a long time ago. And at that stage, I was kind of watching a lot of stuff. Once I started watching things, the algorithm took over and started recommending all different things. But I'm pretty sure the first video I saw was Ken Berry's. He was talking about nightshade vegetables, and that's what I was eating.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So along the way, so how is that? I mean, you've been on the carnivore diet for quite a while now. What are some of the benefits that you've seen from pre-diabetic to now? How are you doing?
Well, I mean, it's chalk and cheese, really. So initially, of course, you get improvements in like sleep and energy and clarity of thought and all that kind of stuff. But within about 2 or 3 months, I no longer had arthritis in my left knee,
Okay.
which is massive because this was impacting my quality of life so much. I couldn't walk up. You've lived in Japan, Japan has a lot of stairs,
Yeah.
and it was really hard to walk around in Japan with arthritis in my knee. And so going upstairs, going downstairs, I had to walk long distances between the train station and work every day, and it was just exhausting. And I was working with kids, so I was getting down on the floor all the time, when I was correcting their work, or when it was like 4-year-old kids that we were teaching, you'd have to sit cross-legged on the floor, and that was just like that was so much pain. And then getting moving again after a class like that was like the whole break in between that lesson and the next lesson was me just recovering. And so the improvement in the quality of life has been huge because that arthritis is gone. Additionally, I had the extra issue with the right side being weaker and having a limp on the right side because I had a stroke when I was 17. And while I still have the limp and my right side still isn't as strong as my left side, it's improving. And that has also contributed to quality of life improvements because, like no arthritis in my left knee, less limp in my right leg. And, I'm able to run like when I was in high school now. It's just so different. I was fortunate, I think, in that I had it when I was 17. And that, when you have a stroke, the earlier you are, the younger you are, the better your recovery is going to be. So really, the issues are just on my right side.
Okay.
And that's kind of weaker right side, my reaction times are much slower.
Yeah.
Like for example, in Japan, as you're crossing an intersection, there are push bikes coming from all directions, and so if someone on a bicycle comes from my left side, then I'm very quick to react, and I know that they're gonna hit me and move back or something like that, right? If they come from my right, I'm not gonna see it, or I'm not gonna react in time, and they're gonna hit me.
Yeah. Now, you just recently put up a video measuring calcium deposits in blood vessels around your heart. Yeah. And you said that you grew up in a house. Your father was a heavy smoker, so and you smoked for many years afterwards. But do you think that was a contributor to your stroke when you were a kid, being in a smoking household? Do you think?
It probably didn't help. But the cause of the stroke was an aneurysm.
Yeah.
So it was like a bubble on the blood vessel, and that's just from a weakening of the blood vessels. So, was that always there? That's what the doctors say. So it was always a weaker part of the blood vessel. But, did smoking exacerbate the problem? Probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it didn't exacerbate the problem, then it may have burst later in life, and later in life, I'm probably going to have a lower rate of recovery. So I'm not sure. Maybe in some ways, maybe it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, maybe. Interesting though. So obviously you had, I mean, it must have been quite difficult for you to have that. You got a limp, you got a weak right side to the left. But since carnivore plus the arthritis, I know like in Japan it'd be very difficult having arthritis in your knees, getting up and down a lot. They walk a lot, and yeah, like you said, there's stairs everywhere and hillsides. So since going carnivore, that's all been recovering. And I mean, what was your weight like as well? Did that have a contributing factor as well?
I maybe contributed somewhat. I mean, I lost about 15 kilos or 30,
Wow.
34 pounds, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I always forget to talk about, because that kind of the weight side of things pales into insignificance to all the other things that change. But yeah, potentially the weight was a factor. And just losing that weight, lightened up the load, that what healing had to happen happened. I don't know, but now for me it's fun. Like I'll get to the steps of the station and I'll be racing my daughter down the steps, and like it's fun and enjoyable, to have the flexibility that I didn't have before, just getting down the stairs. It's yeah, I feel like it's taken 20-30 years of my life.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, and it gives you back a freedom, that you just didn't have before too.
Yeah.
It must feel pretty liberating. So going back to the alcohol, I know I've listening to other carnivores. They just as they progressed along the carnivore diet, they just didn't have a taste for alcohol anymore. Was that the same feeling for you?
I mean, I always had the issue for me was, like, I'm not sure that I ever really had much of a taste for it. It was just an addiction. With me, everything is an addiction, whether it's smoking, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sugar, whatever it is. And so it's like the first one the first drink is always nice. The first cigarette is always nice. The first donut is always nice. Then, then it's just like, there's no off button.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure it was much of a taste thing for me. It's just habit and addiction. And it was just a matter of getting off the addiction wagon, and the self-control that carnivore's given me has allowed me to do that. I can go out to a party now, and people, a dinner party or something, and everyone around me is drinking alcohol, and I can happily have a no alcohol beer or a glass of water or an iced coffee or something, and feel quite happy. I don't feel any urge to go, oh, I need to have one.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that quite a lot. A lot of people they gain more self-control while they're on the carnivore diet. I'm sure it would be very easy to get that addiction back, but while staying strict, they just don't have that lust for it anymore. Like, they look at food completely different to the way they used to look at it. I think that's one important key too, because I think largely because you're satiated, your body has the nutrients it needs, and you're not trying to look for it elsewhere. One of those things.
I think there's something to be said for everything, like in the overall improvements in your life that come from just having a stable blood sugar. It's hard to quantify. There's just so many.
Yeah, that's right. So what would be your biggest win on the carnivore diet so far then?
Biggest win for me would, I think it'd have to be the arthritis, but like there's something else that was starting to present as a serious issue before, that's gone away, and that was gum disease. I've always had sensitive gums, right? I've always been in the situation where I brush my teeth, and if it's not a super soft brush, then there's blood in the sink. And so I've always had that sensitive gums. But later in the last few years, what's also started happening is the gums have started receding more, and they've become more sensitive, and also I was starting to get really, really bad breath.
Yeah.
And I only realized all this had improved after a few months of being on carnivore, because my wife was no longer recoiling like this when I spoke to her close. And it was like, hang on, your reactions are different than they were before, you know?
Oh, that's pretty hard.
Yeah.
Your wife can't get that close to you.
Yeah, right. So that's just, all those problems are just gone.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? It's one of those things you don't really notice all the things that are along the way, like those non-scale victories. But when someone points them out to you, you think, oh yeah, wow, I didn't realize. But you get used to feeling really good, and yeah, it's hard to put it down, because unless you actually document absolutely everything every day, it's very difficult to say, okay, this is because of the food, sort of thing. But yeah, that's impressive. So how the teeth now, that you don't have any sensitivity?
No,
or is it just
and
a little bit better?
no, it's like completely, I don't know, fixed is the right word, but it's just it's so different. My teeth feel strong. The gums don't hurt. The gums aren't sensitive. I can go, like, the worst thing for me was going into a hotel and using a toothbrush in a hotel, because it's like that was just carnage before. And now it's like it's just like using a toothbrush anywhere for me now. So all that's gone.
Yeah, I know some of those hotel toothbrushes are hard as a rock, so
Yeah.
pretty bad. Yeah, but yeah, but at least you can get through that now. That's good. What about in general? Like, you started this because you didn't want to be diabetic and you wanted to do something about the alcohol. What about your general health? Like, weight wise, you lost 15 kilos. And I think recently you put up a picture. You have 6-pack abs now. Do you exercise?
I don't exercise so much. I was trying to, but it's just, I've got so many different bits and pieces going on. It's hard to find the time to do it. But as you know about Japan, like it's pretty easy to exercise anyway, because just by default, because if you don't have a car, you're walking everywhere, and that might mean you walk for an hour to 2 hours every day. So other than walking, I'm not doing anything now. That's a really surprising thing about carnivore, is the muscle seems to come on without you having to do much or anything.
But Japan too, you get a lot of incidental exercise. Like you said, you have to walk everywhere, and there's a lot of stairs everywhere too, so that helps a lot. I find that interesting. But yeah, it's fantastic.
It's amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
You're right, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it really seems, in some ways it seems a little bit ridiculous when I look back on my previous life, and I think of like everything, whether it's going to the gym, or it's like how I was eating, or it's the exercise things that you are buying and whatever. It's all designed to kind of keep you feeling like you're doing something for your health. But you aren't actually achieving very much, because it all comes down to the fact you're still poisoning yourself anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can't outrun a bad diet. It's as simple as that. If you, I mean, and you can work as hard as anyone in the gym and still see. I mean, you might get stronger, but you won't get the lean results unless you get your food right. And it won't be healthy either. Like, you can be fit and lean without being healthy. I've seen that myself. So yeah, it's such a key ingredient to longevity. So what would be your most unexpected sort of benefit from the carnivore diet, do you think?
The most unexpected benefit? This is probably maybe TMI. But so I'm a public speaking trainer, and while I don't do it at the moment, what I was doing before is I would go out to like pharmaceutical companies, manufacturers, those technology companies, and all this staff who are going to be going overseas to help open factories or offices overseas would come into these seminars, and we do a full day or 2 day full day seminar on how to deliver presentations in a global environment. And after lunch on any full day seminar I was doing, after lunch, it was an absolute nightmare, because my stomach would be making this gurgling and like never stop, because you always had the bento that they gave you at the company, right? So there's good food in there, but there's also a lot of seed oils and fried garbage and stuff in there as well. And so my stomach's gurgling, and I'm like, how am I going to get to the bathroom? I've got 4 hours of this left. And you'd set up an activity for everyone, and you'd say, okay guys, this is what I want you to do, groups of 4, blah, blah, blah. And they'd start working. And someone would raise their hand and say, I've got a question. And like, you've got to go from the middle of the room over to that table to talk about what's going on. So you start walking over, and it's like your stomach's gurgling, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to fart. And it's like, now you're walking like a penguin over to the table, because you're like, you don't trust what's about to happen, and you've got 30 people in the room in front of you, and you're like, if I drop my guts in here, like, what's gonna happen? And so for me, the most unexpected benefit is probably that I can trust my farts now. I don't fart so much, and I can trust them.
Yeah, I agree that there's a total lack of gas. And I really honestly expected the gas to go up when I first started carnivore. I was thinking, okay, high protein meal, obviously there's going to be more gas, but quite the opposite. So that was actually something that I didn't notice until my wife actually mentioned that I just don't pass gas anymore. So that was my one of my unexpected sort of victories, I guess.
And breaking news.
People.
And breaking news. This is the first time I'm talking about this, because I only realized this the other day. The warts are all gone on my hands.
Oh, wow.
I had warts all over my hands from when I was in high school. When I was working in Hong Kong in 1996, I've still got a scar here from where I had this massive one burnt off because like it was in the way. And I just had warts everywhere on my hands. They're all gone. Nothing.
Wow. What was that from, do you think?
I don't know. It just I went to doctor after doctor after doctor. Had them frozen off. Had this. They always came back.
Wow.
And
Wow.
now I can't remember the last time I saw one.
Wow. I mean, I
I
have
just got
noticed
that
that
scar as a
my,
reminder.
yeah, I mean, I've never had anything like that, but I have noticed that skin does get better. It certainly does feel better. Feels more, I don't know, moist, I guess. But do you use any kind of different soaps or anything like that, like tallow or?
No. um, so when it comes to anything like that, I'm like super basic, like just whatever. Like I don't use the best stuff or anything like that. I just get some soap, whatever soap is cheapest from the supermarket, and that's what I use.
Okay.
So yeah, it's probably not great for me, but
Mhm.
yeah, I'm very just like get it done and yeah, then get on with my day.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. So what's next for you then? You have basically you are recovering from stroke symptoms. You have conquered alcoholism. You've gotten rid of the sugar and carb addictions. So what's next for you?
Well, I would like to I'd like to have more of a focus on like fitness and moving and stuff, um,
Yeah.
because I I feel good now, but I also don't want to take it for granted.
Yeah.
And so, as I am getting older, um, I I want to get more into the gym, or I want to do more, whether it's actual weights in the gym or body weight exercises or whatever it is. I want to do more just to be active,
Yeah.
um, because I feel so good now. In 10 years I want to feel the same. I don't want to
Yeah.
have this. I don't want to have this kind of life that's gone like downhill, downhill, downhill. I plateaued for a few years when I started carnivore, and then it's going to go down again. I want
Yeah.
to continue like this or get better. So, more movement, and I am really focused at the moment on doing as much as I can within my small sphere of influence to kind of get the word out about carnivore.
Yeah.
The reason I started my channel was to because I was irritated once I realized how good you could feel eating this way,
Yeah.
and how much we've been lied to. And I was lied to years ago by media, by dietitians who told me I was killing myself by doing Atkins. Um, and that's what threw me off Atkins in the first place. And so I was just really angry. So 3 months in, I started my channel, and I wanted to kind of start getting the word out about it, and people are responding. So yeah, I just kind of keep pushing the message, and if people try it doesn't work for them, that's fine, but I just want to be kind of there saying, this is an option if you've got health problems.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't see how. I mean, the only way it wouldn't work for someone is if they don't do it properly.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people they tend to undereat when they start and don't eat enough fat. Um,
Mm.
which actually just off topic here, but a recommendation: a book called "The Fat of the Land"
Mm.
by Dr. Wilhelm Stephenson. He was a brilliant anthropologist who spent 10 winters and 13 summers in the Arctic Circle studying the Inuit and Eskimo. So, well worth the read. So,
No, thank you.
another thing, that's something I've noticed a lot of carnivores when people um, they've never thought about doing exercise their entire life, but after some months doing carnivore, they feel so good that they actually do feel like getting outside and moving and exercising. Is that something you ever thought about before the carnivore diet yourself?
Yeah, no, not at all. So before, I would have been like, yeah, the sofa's good for me, or the computer chair is good for me, or whatever.
Yeah,
Now, it's almost like you are compelled to move. It's like your body is pushing you to move. Come on, let's go. Let's do something.
mm,
And like I say, like, excuse me, when I like last weekend, I was walking with my wife and daughter to the station, and my daughter says, "Let's race." I'm like, "All right." And I would never have done that. I would have been, oh, my leg's sore, my this is sore, that's, oh, I've got this problem, that problem, you know. And I was like, okay, we're racing each other, and it's like, I, you actually feel good expending the energy. And I
yeah,
don't ever remember exercise being like that in the past.
yeah,
You know, exercise for me in the past, going to the gym in the past, was always me thinking, when is this going to be over?
yeah.
You know, how many more of these things do I need to pick up before I can go and, you know, sit in the car or something?
That in itself is a great story, isn't it? That you've
Mm,
gotten your life back to the point where you can enjoy your child's childhood, you know. And then
yeah.
that's really special too, you know. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, I've seen that a lot with many other carnivores. They'd never thought about exercising before, but all of a sudden and that, like I keep telling people, we are built to move. Your body loves to move. So and you just don't feel like it when you're on the wrong diet. You know? And again, it's very frustrating to think that education and everything around us is built or designed to um, make us think that it's not, you know. So there you have it.
mm,
But at least people are waking up to it now, and we are getting the message out, so that helps.
mm, mm.
Um, Health-wise, generally speaking, a lot of people will tell us that the carnivore diet has no nutrients. So, colds, flus, infections, that sort of stuff. How are you with colds and flus, for example?
So, appropriate timing. I'm just getting over the flu,
Okay.
and it went through the whole family.
Yeah.
And I did the best. And that's the first time I've been sick since August of 2022. And in
Oh,
August of 2022, I had COVID, and that also went through the family at the time. And I did the best with that. I didn't have a fever.
yeah.
I lost my voice. That was it.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's not fun to be sick, but you know, it's few and far between.
Yeah.
And when it is happening, it seems like it's not hitting me as seriously as everyone else. So yeah,
Yeah. So, do they last long, do you think?
the illnesses.
Yeah.
Um, well, this flu seems to have lingered.
Okay.
You know, I'm still kind of, I've still got a little bit of a cough from it. I mean, it's gone, but you know, the cough is,
Yeah.
and the cough's easing up, but it's still there.
Okay. Fair enough.
Mm,
That to me was one of the most important things that I got from carnivore actually. Like I had a cold when I the first 3 months on carnivore, and it lasted 2 days. It was
mm,
incredible. Whereas before, like an infection like that would last me months because it just keep rebounding, and I'd have the respiratory system would be so infected, like have such severe coughs that it was um, it was painful. It's like migraine headaches, and it was crazy. But to me is just a huge difference. My immune system has been so much stronger since doing this. It's incredible. Any advice? What would you have? What would be your best advice for someone who's thinking about the carnivore diet, but maybe hesitant?
Well, it's probably a couple of parts. I mean, the first thing is, if you're hesitant, I understand that. I understand that it's difficult to commit to something that the mainstream is telling you is wrong. But I would encourage anyone who's interested to just say, okay, well, I'm going to give it a try, and I'm going to try it for 90 days. That said, to maximize your chances of success, I would not look at it as a long-term thing, because when you're just getting started, it's like saving money, right? So if you're 18 and you decide, okay, well, I'm going to save this much money every month so that I can retire as a millionaire.
Yeah.
Right. And a couple of weeks, 2 months into this, you're going to be like, oh, I can't see any reward for this, and it seems like such a long time till I retire. I'm jack of this. I'm just going to go out partying. So I think the same thing can happen with something like carnivore, right? If you're looking into the distance and going, how can I sustain this for 90 days? How can I do this for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Then you're more likely to not do it. So what I would say is, when you get started, just focus on day to day. I'm just going to get through today, and I'm going to stick to carnivore the whole day. I'm not going to break it today. Tomorrow's a new day. I'll worry about everything else tomorrow. What happens is, you get through day one, and then when you wake up day two, number one, you feel better. Number two, you feel better about yourself, because you realize, one of the first realizations you have when you wake up is, I did it.
Yeah.
And then your resolve to stay another day for day two is that much stronger. So day two is easier, but still just focus on that day. Get through that day. Don't think about the future. And then again, day three in the morning, your resolve is so much stronger. And you just keep repeating that pattern over a week. And before long, it's like, yeah, bring it on. I'm happy to do this for another 50 years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's something I always tell people too. Yeah, sometimes when you look at the end goal, it looks like a mountain in front of you, but don't focus on the whole picture, the big picture. Don't focus on the mountain. Just follow each step at a time. Just focus on that next step, and you'll get there. Eventually, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there. Eventually, you will get there. So that's
right.
really key important. So another big misconception about carnivore diet is scurvy. Have you had any trouble with that?
I haven't had scurvy. I'm happy to report I have not had scurvy.
All right. So 2 years on carnivore and no scurvy yet. Very good.
No scurvy. And I mean, I guess with scurvy, what usually would happen, you're bleeding gums and your teeth falling out and stuff like that. And, the reverse is happening. So,
yeah, quite the opposite. Yeah, so that's good. What would be the biggest drawback then on being on the carnivore diet?
Honestly, I think the biggest drawback is because you start to realize what some people see as friendship.
Yeah.
So fortunately, it hasn't happened a lot, but you do realize that some people will be like, you're not fun anymore. We used to go out and enjoy cake together. We used to go and have a beer together and stuff. And it's like, we can still go out. I'll even go to the pub with you, but I'm not having a beer. And it's like they can't get over that, and it's like, well, hang on, so it wasn't actually a relationship built on you like me, I like you. Then if it comes down to I'm not holding a beer in my hand so you can't feel comfortable, or I'm not
They
eating
just
the
want
cake
someone to
next to
drink
you.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be pretty hard, I guess. Some people
Mm,
just look at you differently. They change the way you're eating, but you're the one that has to deal with the consequences of eating the bad food. So ultimately, it's
exactly.
up to you, isn't it?
Mm.
What about your family? Are they carnivore? Your wife, daughter?
No, I think so for my daughter, like, at school, it's all about teaching kids about eating a balanced meal and all this kind of thing, And, I mean, of course, I'd love to go in there guns blazing and go, this is garbage. But, I want my daughter to grow up happy and healthy, right? And mentally happy and healthy. And, like having this crazy father that's always contacting the school about the dietary stuff is not
Yeah,
going to help that. So, um, I'm leading by example with my daughter. And
no, that's
when we're at home, like last few weekends, we've been out for dinner. We've gone to a steakhouse for dinner. And before she would have had the nuggets and the chips and the fried this and the fried that and whatever, and like she's having the same steak as me now.
good.
And the thing that happens is she enjoys the steak, so she eats the steak first, and then magically what happens, she's not hungry anymore,
Oh,
so she
that's
doesn't need to eat all
ice
the
cream and
grass that's
sweets
around
and
it.
stuff. Yeah, well, that's great. That's really
Yeah.
great. I mean, they have
um
great steakhouses and yakiniku restaurants around Japan. It's fantastic. Um,
mm,
in that part, I think it would help, the abundance of it. But it's just an abundance of everything else as well. It makes it difficult to
yeah.
abstain. Yeah. What about
Yeah,
the
my
wife?
wife, no, she's supportive, but I think it's too difficult for a Japanese person living in Japan to do carnivore. It's just culturally, you know, um, it's like, can you imagine a Japanese person going to dinner at their parents' place or something and saying, "No, I can't have that. I can't eat that. Sorry."
I don't know. I
And
think that would be case by case. My
yeah,
my my wife's
maybe.
in-laws, my in-laws are really good like that. So
I think culturally, like if you say you can't eat something in Australia or America, people just go, "Oh, okay, well, you can't eat it."
yeah,
Like, but if you in Japan, if you're out with friends or something, you're a Japanese person, and you were like, "I can't, I'm not eating that."
yeah,
It's like you're going to get lots of questions, right? There, because it's like the nail that sticks out gets hammered down.
yeah, yeah.
And so she's supportive, but yeah, she's not doing it.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, hopefully one day, yeah, she might decide to make the change for herself. I think that happens a lot. Like you said, leading by example is it always rubs off eventually. It just takes
Hmm.
time. So
Hmm.
yeah, my wife's the same. I mean, she loves meat and she has actually reduced eating carbs, actually, but still likes to eat rice and still likes to eat
Hmm.
vegetables. So,
Hmm.
but we very much stay away from anything processed.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've done
But
that a
so
long time.
this is another thing that's interesting to talk about. Like all the plant-based advocates, they're always talking about how in Japan, especially Okinawa, they don't eat lots of meat and stuff like that. But they are big meat eaters.
Yeah,
They eat
huge
rice and
meeting.
stuff as well. But they are big meat eaters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that the
Mm,
whole blue zone garbage is ridiculous. They cherry picked like an era after the war of extreme poverty and starvation, and went with that. And you get these ridiculous so-called, I would say, non-doctor, actually, because he's not really a doctor. He's never practiced Grieger, telling people about blue zones. They've never even been to Japan. Japanese love me. They eat anything that's ever come out of the ocean or moved at some point. They've always eaten a lot of seafood, always eaten a lot of any kind of animal that moved, be it small birds to big ruminant animals. That's always been the staple of their diet. Rice and vegetables has always been a side. So, it's just a complete scam. Try and push a ideological sort of agenda and books to idiots that believe them. But there you go. It's and it's always the same. These people always try and push like this idea of either a faraway land. This is what they do in this faraway land, because they don't think that anyone's going to go there and check.
Yeah,
it's crazy, but people believe it. So
yeah.
What do you do? I guess. All right. So, what about blood test? Have you had blood tests done over the last couple of years on carnivore?
Yeah.
Have they for you? All good?
All good, except LDL. So, if we're talking about LDL, is the, a good, if we're saying a good LDL level is what, mainstream doctors would say now is what, probably 80 to 100. I guess. I mean, mine's way off that.
Yeah.
I'm in the 300s. So, yeah.
Well, when you're fat adapted and your liver is producing your liver produces more LDL to transport fat, so that's all it's doing. So that's how your LDL goes up. So it's not a bad thing either. And we've seen so much evidence proving, higher cholesterol is a healthy thing. Low cholesterol is what's going to kill you.
And I'm probably exacerbating it because I'm eating one meal a day. I'm only eating breakfast. And at night, I'll go for a walk for an hour and a half. So my body is probably just to keep up with the energy requirements, my body's probably trafficking way more LDL than it otherwise would be.
Yeah, it does. When you are fasting, for example, your LDL will go up because you are using fat stores. And when you're using fat stores, the LDL are just transporters for the fat. Okay. So that's what it is. So, of course, even when you're fasting, your LDL will go up. And if you're doing like one meal a day, then obviously it's going to be higher. So that's a good thing.
Which this made me kind of double take recently when I was at the doctor, and the doctor told me that fasting would probably help me lower my LDL. And I thought, I don't think that's right. I really don't think that's right.
No, it's really not. So this is the thing too. Doctors, GPs especially, just they are not trained in simple biological processes, and especially when it comes to nutrition. They are basically just trained to identify markers in blood results that will put people on medications. And it's sad that we actually we've grown up to trust anyone in a white coat or with a doctorate to over our own body. It's crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
All right. So, what would be your favorite thing about the carnivore diet?
My favorite thing about carnivore, well, there's two things, but they're connected. One is the simplicity.
Yeah.
It's good not to have to think. It's good not to have to expend energy thinking, well, I had broccoli and cauliflower with this meal. What am I going to put with the next meal? And all this kind of thing. You just get the ground beef or the steak out of the fridge and put it on the pan, and you're almost finished. So there's that. And the other thing that's related is I've got so much more time now.
Yeah.
Before my life looked like this. It was, okay, well, what's for breakfast? All right. So now I've had breakfast. What's for the snack on the way to work? Now, what's for lunch? What's for the afternoon snack? What's for you're always thinking about food. It never stops. And it's like, you've got to be eating something every 2 hours or your body's crying out for food. And, like, when you take that away, the amount of time that you get back, the amount of idle time that you claim back from when you were thinking about food, the amount of preparation, the amount of walking to the shop, the amount of, standing in line waiting to buy some energy bar or whatever, all of that stuff. I mean, potentially you get back 2 or 3 hours every day. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Actually, the same thing, I was talking to Adam Lacey from Carnivore today, exactly the same. The time, it's not often in this day and age that in this lifestyle that you actually get time back. But when you cut down to 1, 2, even 3 meals a day, and on the carnivore diet, it's so simple, you don't have to waste time thinking about it. You do get time back, and a lot, hours every single day. It's incredible. Yeah. And it's very liberating also.
And when you think about that over a year, I mean, how much more productive can you be at work, in your business, with your family, whatever it is, in a year with all that time clawed back?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's an incredible amount that you could be using to focus on many other aspects of your life, enjoying your life. Like you said, spend time with your family, or pursuing other entertainment, I think that one of the biggest changes for many carnivores is they stop seeing food as entertainment.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what would you think that the biggest change in you has been since you started carnivore?
The biggest change, maybe if we talk mentally rather than physically, I think probably the biggest change is I can step back and look at things objectively now much better than I could before.
Yeah.
Whereas before, like, if there was some kind of dispute or disagreement or whatever, I'm more likely to be in there scrapping, trying to, trying to make sure that, everyone sees my point of view or whatever. It's not like that anymore. Like, a good example of this actually is you get hate on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And it's just unavoidable because, there are keyboard warriors out there that are unhappy with their lives, or something pissed them off today, or whatever it is. And they just got to take it out on someone.
40-year-old virgins living in their mother's basements and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. And, so 20 months ago, like, I would have given up my channel because of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or I would have started scrapping with them and like, how dare you say this, blah, 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 and now I'm just, I can much more easily go, you know what? He's probably having a bad day. Who cares?
Yeah.
Or, YouTube put it in the spam comments, so that's where it's going to stay, or something like that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same as, like, who cares what they think? Honestly, it doesn't affect us in any way. I think you are more. I think because you're thinking clearer, you're more satisfied with what you are doing as well. So you don't really need, like, I don't need to. Actually, we were talking about that the other day. People asking about different types of food, to whether they stay on carnivore or not. But you don't need validation. And that's the thing. I don't need validation from anyone else.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah. it's quite often you get like comments like, what do you think about, like, what, at the time I was on Carnivore Soldier's channel, he said, people asking about, what do you think about honey? And basically what they're asking for is validation, whether, if they like it or not. What people eat is up to them. What people do is up to them. And like I said, we do not need validation from others to do what we think is right, so yeah, I think that's a very big part of the confidence, and the you just don't have that anxiety, as before. I don't know, it's just, I can't explain why. It just obviously you're getting the right nutrients to the brain, getting ketone levels and things like that, but that anxiety is gone. And I think, like you said, you just don't sweat those ridiculous comments, the ignorant comments and things like that anymore. I mean, like I said, we don't need the validation.
Yeah, it's before, along those lines, before, when I was doing something, I would have been thinking, well, the end goal better be good because I've got to impress this person and this person and this person, and I hope they like this. And now it's like, I don't care. Am I enjoying doing this?
Yeah.
Then that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Is it working for me as well? A lot of the anxiety that people have starting anything is, am I doing the right thing? When they start a new diet of any kind, or when just anything that they do, am I doing the right thing? Is this going to work for me? And I think when you've been on it for a while, especially on carnivore diet, and you've seen the improvement, you feel the improvement, you no longer have that anxiety. So you just don't have that requirement for validation either. So yeah, I think that's something. You just have to be on it for a while and just trust yourself. Trust that your body knows what it needs to do. That's something Bart Kay said to me as well. Your cholesterol level is exactly what it should be at that given moment, because your body knows exactly what it is doing as long as you give it the right food. Yeah, so it's the same thing. Okay, so any last bit of wisdom or advice you'd like to give people?
I would just say, guys, if you haven't tried it, try it. It'll change your life.